Today I'm going to go into how narcissistic relationships create relationship wounding and how understanding this means that you can go into your relationships with more self-understanding instead of self-blame. So the first one that we need to cover is trust. So in a narcissistic relationship, you are taught to not trust yourself. And if you struggle to trust yourself, it means that it's very difficult to go into relationships in the future because you are constantly doubting yourself. You are doubting your interpretation of this person. You are doubting your communication with them. And then because of what the narcissist did, because at one point you trusted them and they betrayed you, you then struggle to trust other people. Because what if they do the same to me and I can't trust my own judgment because I made a judgment before and that was wrong. So obviously I can't trust my own judgment and I can't trust them because I couldn't trust the narcissist. And so it creates this dynamic where it's really difficult to connect to other people because there is so much doubt and insecurity on your ability to trust anybody else and even trust yourself. So it's not just about trusting them because they betrayed you or lack of trust within yourself. It's trusting your own mind, trusting your own memory. Because of the gaslighting and the manipulation, what happens is your ability to trust your own memory of things becomes distorted. So if you're trying to build a relationship with somebody and you can't trust your own memory of what things that have happened and you can't trust what they're telling you because you've learned from past experiences with the narcissist that actually you can't always trust the person that says that they care about you and love you, then you end up in this really difficult predicament. How do you build trust with somebody when you don't know whether or not they're trustworthy? And that becomes a cycle that you can get caught into. So disrupted trust is something that is very difficult to overcome when you have experienced narcissistic abuse, because it isn't just a lack of trust in the other person, it is a lack of trust within yourself. And that takes time. That doesn't just heal overnight. It takes a long time to build that trust up within yourself again and allowing yourself to trust others. And so you need to have a very honest conversation with the people that are coming into your life that actually you've experienced some real difficulty in the past, and you need to be able to have open, honest conversations. Honesty, even if it's difficult, is how you build trust. If you are entering a relationship with somebody and they are willing to have difficult conversations with you, you will build trust with them a lot quicker because they are saying, I will be honest with you, even if it is hard, even if it is uncomfortable, I will be honest with you. And if they are willing to sit in that discomfort for honesty, then you know that you can trust them. If they are trying to lie to you, to protect you, to shield you, that creates more dishonesty, that creates more lack of trust. So you need to have relationships in your life where they can be honest, where you can be honest, even if it is uncomfortable, even if it is unpleasant. Honesty has to be key in the relationships that you have. You also may end up with fear of abandonment or over-attachment because of the narcissistic relationship. So depending on, from my experience of working with hundreds of women who have experienced narcissistic abuse and overcoming narcissistic abuse, a lot of them found that how the relationship ended was very important to whether they became over-attached in their following relationships or if they pushed people away. So you're gonna have to figure this out for yourself because all of us experience it differently, and different relationships mean that we will have different attachment styles with them. So you need to start really tuning into yourself and figuring out, how do I feel in this relationship? Do I feel secure in this relationship? Do I feel comforted in this relationship? Do I feel like I have to people please in this relationship? So you need to become aware of what your attachment styles are with different people. And that comes from a knowing and an understanding of yourself. So when you are in a relationship with different people, you need to know who you are in that relationship. What is the role that you are playing? How do you feel about it? And are you putting on any false personas in order to maintain that relationship? Are you pretending to be something that you're not in order to keep them happy? Are you people pleasing? Are you lying to yourself and to them? Like, you've got to figure all of this out, and that comes from knowing yourself. So when you are in relationships with other people, start to figure out how you are showing up in that relationship and why. And instead of analysing just the relationship or analysing how they show up in the relationship, it comes from an understanding of who am I within this relationship. And then you've got the repetition of old patterns is the other experience that a lot of us have. When you have been conditioned to live within a stressful environment for a very long period of time, that becomes your normality. It becomes your standard. And that constant anxiety, that constant living on eggshells, that, that fear, that apprehension that a lot of us, a lot of people are like, oh, that's butterflies in your stomach or whatever else. It's anxiety. But a lot of us, when we have become accustomed to a constant of stress, when that stress isn't there within a relationship, we will create it. Why? Because that is our normality. That is our safe space. We know that place. We know what it's like to live within a relationship that has a constant undercurrent of stress. We know that. And so even though it is not healthy, even though it is destructive, even though we have escaped it and we don't want to go back to it, our nervous system still turns around and says, yes, but I know I can survive that. I know that. That's familiar. And so you may create more stressful, more anxiety creating situations within your current relationship in order to get that stress back. So a lot of people repeat old habits or repeat old patterns of living within stressful relationships or creating stress within their life because that is their norm. That is their standard of living. That's what they're used to. The other risk is repeating old patterns in the sake of entering another abusive relationship. Narcissistic abuse is like an addiction. The trauma bonding causes like an addiction. I will go into this in one of my other videos, but that means that when a relationship ends, if it wasn't ended by the victim and it was ended by the abuser, the victim then was forced to go through withdrawal. And if they didn't go through withdrawal, they will look for somebody else to then feed that dopamine that they get from the love bombing. And so it can be very dangerous, and a repetition of old patterns can be entering another abusive relationship because you are looking for the same dopamine fix that you used to get from the love bombing from the narcissist. So you need to be very aware of where you are in your healing journey and whether or not you have got to that point where you are able to enter another relationship without the pursuit of that high, that adrenaline that comes from the euphoria of feeling love and connection. If you're still seeking that, if you're still really wanting to be connected with somebody, then you really shouldn't be entering into another relationship without having couples counselling or without having an external third party there, making sure that this is a healthy relationship for you. Because it can be very, very dangerous entering into another relationship when you haven't overcome that chemical dependence from the love bombing. So, these attachment wounds, these relationship wounds can be really, really heavy to understand, and it takes time. And it takes being in a relationship with an understanding partner in order to be able to heal these. It doesn't happen overnight, and you need to be aware of that for yourself and for the relationships that you have in your life. And it doesn't just show up in the relationships that you have with your partner. It will show up in the relationships that you have with friends, with family, with multiple other people. So become aware of who you are and how you're showing up in the relationships, and which of your wounds are actually being triggered by the relationships that you have in your life. In the next video, I am going to be talking about boundaries. So if that is something that you are struggling with in relationships, I will pop the link and you can go and click and watch that straight away. Take care.